The world stood still. A giant had fallen. The man who once towered over his opponents, whose fists spoke louder than words, was no more. George Foreman, heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, preacher, businessman, and mentor, had taken his final breath. The news hit hard, not just in the boxing world, but across generations of fans, athletes, and ordinary people who had been touched by his journey. His story was not just about boxing. It was about resilience, redemption, and reinvention. The young powerhouse who struck fear into the hearts of his opponents. The humbled man who walked away from fame to find faith. The warrior who came back when no one believed in him. The father, figure who used his name not for glory, but to change lives. Now that voice was silent, but his legacy was louder than ever. How do you say goodbye to a man who refused to be counted out? How do you mourn someone who lived every second of his life, proving that it's never too late to rise again? Texas had never felt so quiet. The man who had filled stadiums with roaring crowds was now the reason for a silence so heavy it could be felt in the air. Thousands gathered to pay their last respects. Family, friends, boxing legends, and fans from all walks of life made their way to the church, their hearts burdened with grief, but filled with gratitude for the life Foreman had lived. Boxing's greatest names were there. Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, and even younger fighters like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, all paying tribute to the man who had shaped the sport. His old rivals, including Muhammad Ali's family and Joe Frazier's children, attended to honor the brotherhood that boxing had built. The church was packed beyond capacity, and outside, thousands more stood in quiet reflection. Some held championship, belts in tribute, others wore shirts bearing his famous words, "It's not about getting knocked down, it's about getting back up." The funeral service began with a moving speech from his family. His children spoke of the man behind the legend, the father who taught them about life, faith, and perseverance. He always told us, "Life is like boxing. You'll get hit. You'll fall, but the only thing that matters is whether you get back up," said one of his sons, tears in his eyes. He never let us quit on anything. He believed that no failure was final. Then came the tributes from the boxing world. Lennox Lewis stepped forward, holding back his emotions. George Foreman was more than just a champion. He was proof. That age is just a number. That heart is stronger than muscle. He came back when no one thought he could, and he did the impossible. Mike Tyson, the once fearsome fighter, struggled to find words. George was my hero. He scared people in the ring. But outside of it, he was the kindest, most humble man you'd ever meet. He showed me that being tough wasn't about hurting people, it was about standing for something. Evander Holyfield nodded. "I fought some of the hardest men in boxing. But George, he wasn't just strong, he was wise. He made you feel like every lesson in the ring was a lesson for life." Michael Moorer, the man who lost his championship to Foreman in 1994, spoke with a bittersweet smile. "People thought I should have been embarrassed losing to a 45-year-old. But you know what? Losing to George Foreman was an honor. He was proof that destiny has its own timing." The tributes didn't just come from boxers. Business leaders, young athletes, and even pastors shared stories of how Foreman had touched their lives. His impact stretched beyond the ring. It was in boardrooms, churches, and homes where his wisdom guided people through struggles they thought they couldn't overcome. Foreman's career wasn't just about victories. It was about transformation. He had 2 careers in boxing, and both were legendary in their own right. The first was the young, ruthless powerhouse who knocked out Joe Frazier in 1973, winning the heavyweight title with devastating force. He seemed unbeatable, a monster in the ring. But then came Muhammad Ali in 1974. The rumble in the jungle wasn't just a loss. It was a lesson. Ali's strategy of wearing him down with the rope-a-dope left Foreman broken, not just physically, but mentally. That loss could have ended him. Instead, it became the start of something greater. He walked away from the sport. He found faith. He changed his life. And then, against all odds, he returned. The older, wiser Foreman was no longer feared. People laughed at him. He was too old, too slow, too past his prime. But in 1994, at the age of 45, he shocked the world by knocking out Michael Moorer to become the oldest heavyweight champion in history. It wasn't just a win, it was a statement to the world. Never count yourself out. Foreman was more than just fists. His real strength lay in his ability to change and grow. After his first retirement, he became a preacher, spreading messages of hope and faith. He believed his second chance in life wasn't just about boxing, it was about helping people. Then came the George Foreman grill, an invention that turned him into a household name in ways boxing never could. Over 100 million grills were sold, making him wealthier than he had ever been in the ring. Unlike many athletes who struggled after retirement, Foreman showed that reinvention was possible at any stage of life. But money never changed him. He used his success to fund youth programs, support charities, and mentor young fighters. His boxing gym became a sanctuary for kids who had nowhere else to go. He didn't just teach them to fight, he taught them to believe in themselves. Many athletes have left a mark, but few have done it the way Foreman did. Muhammad Ali was the people's champion, a man who fought battles outside the ring as much as inside it. Michael Jordan dominated basketball, then built an empire. Kobe Bryant went from basketball superstar to storyteller and mentor. But George Foreman was different. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a man who completely changed himself. He went from feared warrior to beloved grandfather figure, from knockout artist to spiritual leader, from struggling retiree to one of the most successful athlete entrepreneurs in history. His journey wasn't just about success. It was about redemption, about proving that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you can always rise again. As the service came to a close, a hush fell over the church. The final tribute was about to take place. The bell rang 10 times, boxing's traditional farewell to a fallen warrior. Each chime echoed through the air, a reminder that legends never truly die. His casket, draped in the American flag, was carried out. People whispered prayers. Some cried. Others smiled, remembering the man who had given them so much to believe in. Outside, the crowd remained. No one wanted to leave. It felt as if walking away meant accepting that George Foreman was really gone, but he wasn't. Not truly. He lived on in the lessons he had taught, the lives he had changed, the hearts he had inspired. As the funeral procession moved forward, a group of young boxers from his gym walked alongside the hearse, each carrying a pair of boxing gloves as a final tribute. These were not just students of the sport. They were young men and women whose lives Foreman had touched, guiding them not only in boxing but in life itself. Many had come from broken homes, struggling with self-doubt and adversity, yet Foreman had given them something beyond training. He had given them belief. As they placed their gloves near his casket, it was clear that his legacy would live on through the lessons he had passed down. Back at the church, as family and friends shared quiet moments of remembrance, a question lingered in everyone's mind. Who else in sports, in life, in history, had transformed themselves the way Foreman had? He had walked through fire, fallen, risen again, and then lifted others with him. His story wasn't just about victory, it was about reinvention, about proving that no matter how impossible the odds, a person could always find a way to stand back up. Now it was up to the world to carry forward the lessons of a man who had taught us all that a true champion is not the one who never falls, but the one who never stays down. As the sun began to set, a soft breeze moved through the gathered crowd, as if nature itself was paying its respects to a man who had fought life's toughest battles and still emerged with a smile. Many in attendance whispered stories of their encounters with Foreman, how he had taken time to inspire a struggling athlete, how he had quietly donated to struggling communities, how he had offered words of wisdom to anyone who sought them. He never let his fame build a wall between him and the people. Instead, he used it as a bridge to connect, to uplift, and to give back. As his casket was lowered, a final, unexpected tribute took place. A lone boxing bell was rung one last time, its chime lingering in the air like an echo of his legendary career. But this time, it wasn't the sound of competition. It was the sound of farewell. The moment was heavy with emotion, yet within that sadness, there was a quiet strength, a reminder that George Foreman had never truly been about winning fights. He had been about fighting for something bigger: hope, faith, and the unbreakable will to rise again. And in that sense, his spirit would never be buried. It would live on in every person who dared to stand up after being knocked down. George Foreman's fists made him famous. His heart made him unforgettable. But now, as he rests, we are left with a question. What will we do with the lessons he left behind? Will we remember that failure is never final? That change is possible at any age? That the greatest victories are not just in sports, but in life itself? Foreman didn't just fight opponents. He fought doubt, fear, and time. And he won. Now it's our turn. Will we take his example and rise when life knocks us down? Or will we let his lessons fade into history? Because if there's one thing George Foreman taught us, it's this: the fight is never over until you decide it is.